I am Nick Geyser, City of Biloxi Emergency Manager and Fire Deputy Chief of Training. Hurricane season is from June to November of each year, and the City of Biloxi wants to help you prepare your family and property for storms and flooding. Are You Ready is the city's outreach program to help get you ready for storm season by bringing together agencies that work with storm preparation. In this program, we will educate and remind residents about the precautions they should take before, during, and after a storm. Whether you are a new or long-time resident, this is news you can use.
First, I want to thank the City of Biloxi for hosting this Are You Ready workshop, and they've been doing it for several years. But a special kudo to them for arranging this virtual one under the COVID pandemic. This is really important. A couple of things I want to start out with. One, if you've never been through a hurricane before, if you're new to the area, take it seriously. You'll hear people say, I got ready, I did this and that, and the last minute the storm turned. That happens. But it's when they don't turn and you're not ready that you're in trouble. You want to understand some basic terminology, and I'm sure I'm probably repeating some things other speakers have said, and that's good because we're all on the same page. But to know the difference between a watch and a warning, when the county emergency managers issue a hurricane or tropical storm watch, it means that it is possible that a storm will make landfall over the next 48 hours. They can always turn, but it's possible. That's the time to really start getting prepared. When it moves to a hurricane warning, that means it's likely we're going to see landfall in our area over the next 36 hours. And if you're not ready by then, you're going to have a problem. So now's the time to prepare. Two other terms to understand is the difference between a tropical storm and a hurricane. Both of them are cyclones, both of them produce a lot of wind, and that can produce a lot of flooding. A tropical storm is simply a cyclone over the water where the winds start at about 35 miles an hour and go up to about 74. Once it hits 75 miles an hour, sustained winds, then it becomes a hurricane. And there are several levels of hurricanes. And I want to emphasize, other than that wind speed, there's not a difference between hurricanes and tropical storms. And both of them can have heavy wind gusts. And that's why they create a lot of damage. Another thing to remember is that hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic rotate counterclockwise. And what that means is that the strongest and deadliest part of a hurricane is the east side of it. So, for example, if a hurricane were to make landfall on the Alabama-Mississippi border to our east, the strongest winds would be on the other side of it. We're still going to get winds coming out of the north as the storm cycles around. And that means the rivers will be pushed down on us, and that also means that large bodies of inland water like the Back Bay, the winds can force them to flood people south of them. But if the hurricane makes landfall to our west, the the Mississippi-Louisiana border or Hancock County, that puts us on the most dangerous side of a storm. And there you can expect a lot of flooding, high tides being pushed in, high winds being pushed in. So just be aware of that. Two other things. One is, once there is some kind of tropical storm or hurricane watch, listen to official information from the City of Biloxi, from the county emergency managers, from the Red Cross. Don't pay attention to what you see and read on social media, because there will be a lot of misinformation, and that can cause problems for you. I'm going to refer to a number of documents that are available to you, and I would encourage you, when you get a chance, to go to our website, redcross.org, and you'll see the information on the screen a little bit later, but redcross.org, and up at the top right-hand corner in red, you'll see Get Help. You click on that, and that'll take you to all of the documents that I discussed. Now, in a storm, what does the Red Cross do? Well, first of all of our services are free, so you don't have to worry about having to pay for a meal or having to pay to be in a shelter or in a hotel. But the Red Cross in a storm does 4 things. We provide shelter, we provide food, we provide casework, and we provide emergency the distribution of emergency supplies. So let's talk about shelters first. There are 2 kinds of shelters: a pre-storm shelter, often called a safe room, and a post-storm shelter. When a hurricane warning is issued, the county emergency managers all across the coast will more than likely open at least one shelter as a pre-storm safe room. That's a safe place that's built to withstand high winds, where people can go and ride out the storm. And the Red Cross will be there to staff it. Now, because we don't know how many people are coming, and because you're not going to be there very long, just until the storm passes through, there won't be cots set up. We'll have some refreshments. So if you decide to go to a pre-storm shelter, it's a good idea to bring along some folding chairs or blankets or something to make yourself comfortable. Depending upon there'll be some cots in the shelter for people that absolutely need them, but we won't have it set up for a whole lot of people because we don't know how many are going to be there, and we don't want to take up a lot of room with cots that we don't need. But again, that's just going to run you through the storm, and when the storm is over, you'll be free to go. The other end of it is a post-storm shelter. Those are going to be residential shelters set up with cots and blankets and 3 meals a day, and Red Cross caseworkers in there. If they are needed this year because of the COVID environment, we'll do what we did last year, and that's have social distancing in there. And even though people are, by then, a lot of them are going to be vaccinated, the cots will be a good distance apart. We're going to require people wear masks when they're in there and follow the COVID protocols. More than likely, what we will end up doing, and we've been doing it all the last year for tornadoes and any other one, is move people who cannot go back to their home because it's just unlivable directly into hotels. And we'll pay for the hotels. And when you're there, you'll be fed 3 times a day by a Red Cross volunteer, and we'll again ask you to follow all the COVID protocols. And so that will replace the shelters. And we're just going to have to wait and see whether if there's enough hotel rooms to take people after a hurricane. If not, we have no choice but to go to the shelters. All I ask you is, if you go to the residential shelter, please know you're going to be required to follow COVID protocols, and just please don't argue. We will have our hands full as it is. Feeding, as I said, you'll be fed in the shelters or in the hotel rooms. And we'll also be using our ERVs, our emergency response vehicles. They look like big ambulances that'll be going through neighborhoods that are impacted, providing food to people. And again, there's no cost for that. We'll also be distributing emergency supplies, things like tarps, blankets, hand tools, comfort kits. These are package filled with personal hygiene items, soap, washcloth, toothbrush, that kind of thing, and cleanup kits. So, look for that if you need it. Casework, these will be, especially the homes that are destroyed or suffer major damage, a caseworker will be assigned to you, and we'll be working to provide you with some emergency financial assistance, not a lot, but some emergency financial assistance, and working with other agencies, both government agencies and nonprofits, to help you out after the storm. And again, that service is free, paid for by our donors. Now, what should you be doing? Starting right now, it's time to prepare. For one thing, be sure your insurance is up to date, your homeowner's insurance. If you do not have flood insurance and you want it, because if your damage is the result of rising water, your homeowner's insurance may not pay for it. So if you're near a body of water, you might want to look at flood insurance. If you're a renter, and a lot of renters don't have property insurance on their possessions, you lose that, you're out of luck. So now's the time to get renter's insurance, which is not expensive at all, and or flood insurance. But you have to do it now, because once there's a storm out there, insurance companies are not going to write anything until after it's over. Make an evacuation plan. If it's a major storm coming, where will you go? Do you have relatives upstate, for example, that you can stay with for a few days? Are you going to have to go to a hotel? Now's the time to decide where I'm going to go, and if it's a hotel, make sure you got that number so when that warning comes, you can call them. because there are going to be tens of thousands of people from South Louisiana and South Mississippi all moving north at the same time, so you don't want to wait till the end. Prepare a kit. In one of the documents that we refer to is how to prepare a kit. What do you need? Make sure you've got all of your important papers, your insurance, your birth certificate, your deed, your prescriptions, because you may have to be getting prescriptions if you're away from your home for a long time. All of those things are listed on the Make a Kit. Make sure you got plenty of batteries for your flashlight, and if you smart, you'll get yourself what's called an all-weather radio. It's a portable radio that can operate either off batteries or just by turning the crank, because we may be without power for a while and you'll want a source of good, accurate information. Also be aware that these documents I'm talking to you about on redcross.org are also available in Spanish. And then finally, what to do after the storm. And very often we see more injuries after the storm than we do during it, because people, if they go back home and see, well, I got a mess in the yard, but at least my home is okay, they kind of drop their guard. And they forget about things like high wind and rising water deposit a lot of things in your yard that don't really belong there. Everything from snakes and spiders to broken glass from a broken window maybe a block away that just blew into your yard, or roofing nails where shingles have been blown off the roof. And so as your kids are walking around barefoot in the yard, or you're walking around with a soft-soled shoes, that's where we see a lot of injuries. Be prepared to take care of yourself for a week. We're going to be there immediately after it's over. And the power companies are wonderful about getting power up as quickly as possible. But a lot of us after Hurricane Zeta last year, which was a bad storm, but not a major one, were without power for 7 days. After Hurricane Katrina, we were without power for a couple of weeks. So understand that it's not likely if your power goes out that it's going to come on that night. So now's the time, as you're going to the grocery store, buy an extra 8-pack of bottled water and some non-perishable foods, cookies, cheese and crackers, nabs, that kind of thing. Just have them handy so you've got something to munch on and something to drink. And keep in mind, you'll want that bottle of water not only to drink, but also to bathe in, or to pour in your toilet bowl so you can flush it. So now's the time to start thinking about that. And one of the checklists that you'll see is the returning home from a flood or hurricane checklist. That's really important to understand things. And some of it's things like, if you're at home when the power goes out, and you're riding the storm out, or you decide now's the time for me to get out and go to a shelter, you may not think to go around and shut off all of the electrical appliances that were on when the power went out. And then a few days later, when the power comes back on, all of those appliances, the television, the lights, the air conditioning, maybe even the stove, all of them are going to come on at once. That's where we see fires. The big surge of electricity into your house, especially if we've had heavy rain and maybe some dampness has worked its way in between the wall around electrical outlets. We see a lot of that. Also, if there are leaning trees and we've had a lot of rain, it may have survived the storm, but if the ground is soft and a little breeze comes by, we often see trees fall on houses 2 or 3 days after a storm. So those are the things to look out for. So as I said, now is the time to be thinking ahead. Understand these storms are serious. And yes, there's a good chance that you can go through all this preparation, even evacuate, and the storm will change course and we'll end up with some heavy winds and a little bit of rain. But that's a heck of a lot better than not being prepared and having another Katrina come through. So now's the time to plan, to think ahead, to take these seriously. They are serious storms. On the good side, remember that your emergency management teams, the city, the county, the state, this is what we do for a living. The Red Cross has been doing this for 140 years. So we know what we're doing. We have plans. We communicate with each other. We all follow the same plans. So we'll get through it. It may take a few days. They're called disasters because things don't always work exactly according to plan, but things get done. So you can be confident in your local emergency managers, your city, your first responders, as long as you're listening to the official information, and in the Red Cross. But you have a responsibility to this too. So be sure you're ready.
I'm Katie King with the Humane Society of South Mississippi, and I'm here to talk to you about pet safety in the instance of a disaster and making sure that you are prepared. Here are some tips that you can help your pet get ready. Make sure that your pet has proper ID, have recent photos handy, make sure they are microchipped and have a visible ID tag, and most importantly, make sure that your information is up to date. You can bring crates large enough for your pet to stand or lie down in comfortably. Take your pet's veterinary records with you, as well as toys and disposable garbage bags. Put together an emergency kit for your pet. Make sure you have enough food, water, and medication to last up to several days. Know your local evacuation centers and call ahead to see if they accept pets. Drive carefully when evacuating and turn around when you see standing water or downed trees on the road. Most importantly, if it's not safe for you, it's not safe for your pets. Each year, the Humane Society of South Mississippi hosts a hurricane special running May through November, offering a $20 package with a rabies vaccine and microchip to public pets in our community. To schedule an appointment, please email appointments@hssm.org.
So Mississippi Power has a wonderful app. Whenever you are preparing for a storm, you want to make sure that you download the app. On the app, you can report an outage, you can change your notification for outages, and you can also see the progression of how the outages are going in your area. So when you're ready for a storm, make sure you have the Mississippi Power app. There are also some other things that you can do. You want to make sure that all of your phones are charged. Any tablets, computers, phones are charged, because when you lose the power, you want to make sure that you have those to communicate with your loved ones. You also want to make sure that you turn down your air conditioner. Whenever you turn it down a little bit, it will allow your house to stay cooler longer, as long as you keep the doors and the windows closed. You also want to make sure that you turn up your refrigerator and your freezer, therefore your items in there will stay fresher longer. You want to make sure that you prepare at least 72 hours worth of food, water, and medications for you and your pets. So after the storm, you want to make sure that you keep your refrigerator and your freezers closed. This will ensure that the items inside stay fresher longer. You want to make sure that you leave the outside light on, so that when power crews are touring the area to see if power has been restored, that will let them know that you have power. Please continue to listen to the local news and radio so that you can see how your area has been affected. It is wise not to drive around and see other damage, because that can cause damage to your vehicle, and it will hinder the power company and other agencies from doing their job of restoring power and keeping everybody safe.
Safety comes first. Stay away from all down lines, even if you think they may be phone or cable television lines. Stay away from down lines. Don't step in nearby puddles or attempt to move any object that comes in contact with the wire. Report down lines immediately to Mississippi Power Company and to your local safety authorities. We also safeguard our employees. We do not ask them to make repairs when weather conditions are hazardous or when the damaged area is dangerous due to flooding or inaccessibility. In such extreme situations, we ask for your patience and understanding. Our employees will begin restoring power as soon as it is as safe as possible. Our dedicated restoration teams are working hard to restore your power. Our crews are highly trained and nationally recognized when it comes to restoring power. When a major storm strikes, we bring in crews from other areas to ensure you get your power turned on as quickly as possible. Mississippi Power concentrates restoration efforts in the areas and on the power lines that restore electricity to the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time. Emphasis is placed on vital emergency services and public safety and water and sewage stations. Because we cannot predict when our service will be restored, we suggest that you make arrangements for persons with serious medical problems or other disabilities to be moved to another location where service is available until the power is restored. We do not make restoration priorities based on where your home is located or how often you call us to report the outage. How the restoration process works. We started our power plants and worked first on the large lines going to the communities from the plant. While working on these main transmission lines, focus goes to the next largest lines. The main feeders or distribution lines in the community, along with restoring power to essential services such as hospitals, water and sewer plants, and fire and police stations. We next repair damage that will return power to the greatest number of customers in the least amount of times. After these are repaired, smaller lines are repaired until the crews get down to the individual lines in neighborhoods. Okay, let's recap some of the things that we just talked about. Any down lines are dangerous. And so we want to stay away from them, notify people, stay back at least 30 feet. Don't go near them, warn people about them. Definitely want to call us. Another thing that we haven't talked about is generators. Make sure that your generators are in safe working condition and is hooked up properly. An improperly hooked up generator can backfeed out onto the lines that are down and re-energize those lines.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie Hornsby with the Mississippi Department of Transportation. As we navigate through hurricane season, it's important to stay prepared even when the tropics are quiet. To help ensure you and your family stay safe during a tropical system, you need to create an evacuation plan. MDOT has mapped out more than 20 different routes in the 2021 Hurricane Evacuation Guide to help you decide which one is best for you and your family. If a tropical system forces an evacuation, residents also need to have an evacuation preparedness kit ready to go. Your kit should include water, food, prescription drugs, important documents, and any additional items you may need for up to 14 days. MDOT offers a checklist that provides a list of recommended items to include. You can download the evacuation map, checklist, and additional hurricane resources at gomdot.com/hurricanes. MDOT's goal throughout every hurricane season is to keep you and your loved ones safe, but we need your help to do it. So plan ahead and get prepared today.
I'm Chris Forey of Coast Transit Authority. At CTA, our job is to make hurricane evacuation easier and safer in Harrison County. Hurricanes are a fact of life here on the coast. And don't forget, hurricane season starts on June 1st. So be sure to pre-register your family now by going to our website, coasttransit.com. Registration is easy. Just answer a few questions, which include your name, address, phone number, and any special needs you may have. If a hurricane threatens, we'll be ready to act and move your family out of harm's way. But don't forget, the following rules of CTA's Hurricane Transportation Program will apply. Baggage is limited to 2 carry-on items per person, and pet carriers count as 1 carry-on. Baggage must be packed and ready to go prior to bus arrival. Non-ambulatory persons must have someone with them for assistance when possible. Qualified pets will be transported to the local pet shelter. All pets must be in a pet carrier at bus arrival and accompanied by the owner during transportation. For more information or to register by phone, call us at 228-896-8080. Remember, you can always register online at coasttransit.com. We'll be glad to set you up and answer any questions you may have. And hey, it's just one more way CTA keeps the Gulf Coast rolling for you.
Hello, I'm Michael Strickland, Captain of the Marine Patrol Division with the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. I'd like to take a few minutes to remind the residents of Mississippi of the importance of preparing your vessels for the upcoming hurricane season. Preparation is key, so be sure to have a plan in place. First, file a float plan. An example of information contained in the float plan can be located on our website at www.dmr.ms.gov. It is not necessary to file the float plan with our agency, but it is a great tool to distribute to family and friends. Don't wait until the last minute to start your relocation plans. Start early. Allow yourself ample time to accomplish your goals. Make sure your vessel is seaworthy, operational, and is equipped with the required safety items. When transiting to your intended safe harbor location, be aware of your surroundings and the wake your vessel may cause. Many of the safe harbor locations are in shallow, narrow waterways surrounded by private property, so please be aware of your speed and the wake your vessel causes, as to not damage personal property. Storm or no storm, as the vessel captain, you're responsible for your wake and the damage it may cause. Be aware of water hazards, especially after the storm when debris will be more prevalent. When securing your vessel, please ensure that you are not anchoring or mooring your vessel in a marked navigational channel. Obstructing a navigational channel is a violation, and you could be cited and face possible fines. Also, consider your vessel's size for proper mooring to ensure that it does not come loose during the storm or its surge. If you'll be utilizing a generator on your vessel, please ensure you have adequate ventilation to prevent the accumulation of carbon monoxide gases. Carbon monoxide is a colorless and odorless gas that can lead to serious tissue damage and possible death. If you'll be storing excess fuel on your vessel, please ensure that the storage canisters are secured properly as to not be introduced into the environment. This could result in short and long-term damage to Mississippi's natural resources. It is also important to remember that Office of Marine Patrol must suspend operations once the sustained wind speed reaches 45 miles per hour. Wind speeds must subside less than 45 miles an hour before Marine Patrol can resume emergency responses. Lastly, know you and your vessel's limitations. Please do not underestimate the immensity of a named storm. Be safe and start planning now. Thank you.
One of the most common results of any hurricane or storm can be debris. Now, debris comes in all shapes and sizes. It could be vegetative debris like tree limbs, or it could be construction debris like shingles and fence parts. That all of them are trouble. Now, in preparing for a storm season, the City of Biloxi engages a contingency contractor. You probably saw that contractor during our Hurricane Zeta recovery with those giant double trucks. We signed a contingency contract to be sure when the period after a storm that we'll have access to equipment. If you will, go to the head of the line ahead of the other cities who may not have contingency contracts. That's one of the things we do. Another thing we do just before a storm is to move all of our equipment to highest places and get it to where we can get it and get in motion early. So what does the average citizen do to get ready for storm debris? Well, for starters, you make your yard and house ship shape. Ship shape, that's Navy talk for everything is nice and neat and tied down secure. That's important because anything that's not secured could become flying debris and cause damage or death. So it's very important to get your yard ship shape. Now, after the storm, it's time to get that debris out to the sidewalk. You got to pile it out on the sidewalk, not next to a fire hydrant, not next to a mailbox, but where a grapple truck can get to it. And you separate your debris. You separate the vegetative debris from the construction debris and any loose bagged leaves, which can be picked up by the normal debris removal company. Once debris is moved to the sidewalk, you just have to be patient. Remember, we don't always start picking debris up immediately after a storm unless it's an emergency and we have to get a road open. We give people time to get their debris to the sidewalk so that it can all be picked up at the same time. Now, if you have any questions about what to do after the storm or before storm, call our citizen representative at 228-435-6271. Call us if you've got any questions. And remember, let's be safe and be ready.
I'm Rick Stickler, the City of Biloxi's floodplain manager. My primary responsibility is to inspect structures in the City of Biloxi to ensure compliance with the city's floodplain management plan and the National Flood Insurance Program. So the best time to buy flood insurance is now, because if there's a storm in the Gulf, insurance companies will not cover you. And there's a 30-day waiting period after you purchase your policy. The City of Biloxi participates in the CRS program, which is the community rating system. The National Flood Insurance Program grades each city on how well they administer their floodplain management plan. The City of Biloxi is a Class 5 in the CRS program, which allows us a 25% discount on all structures inside the special flood hazard area and a 10% discount on all structures outside the special flood hazard area. or what's known as a flood zone. Things you can do now to protect yourself from hurricanes are check your flood vents. Ensure that they're clear of debris and operating properly. Check your drainage ditches and easements to make sure they're free of obstructions and debris so water can flow freely and away from your home. One of the largest mistakes that people make is they don't bag their grass. Grass clippings end up in storm drains and clogged storm drains, which could obviously cause a large problem here on the coast. Maintaining well-kept yards and job sites is another key to ensuring less debris in floodwaters. Also, now is a good time to get an elevation certificate to document where your finished floor is and actual location of your home, as we learned in Katrina, that sometimes you may come back to nothing.
Hi, I'm Matt Stratton with Harrison County Emergency Management. I want to offer a few words of advice for you as we're heading into hurricane season this year. First, we ask you to check your situation. Each family, each household is unique, and you need to make sure that you understand your situation. First, review your evacuation zone, your evacuation routes, and your local flood zones. You can do those all online at our Harrison County webpage. Secondly, make sure that you've identified the special needs of your own household. You may have needs with communication or help with transportation. Go ahead and identify those now so we can get you linked up with the appropriate resources. Next, you want to prepare your household for the different situations that you may find yourself in. Make sure that you have go bags for each of the members of your household. Something with a change of clothes, a cell phone charger, and your important documents that you want to take with you no matter where you go. Next, make sure that you have an emergency supply kit. Things that you're going to need to sustain you for 5 days, such as food and water and emergency supplies. Finally, make sure that you've got a good source of local information. You can use the city and county websites, follow them on social media as well, and make sure that you've enabled wireless emergency alerts in your cell phone. That's located under the settings in the notifications section. A great way to protect yourself and your loved ones this year is to make sure you have adequate insurance coverage. A lot of people look to our local response agencies and FEMA after a storm to help them with damages. But you can help yourself by making sure that you've got the insurance coverage that you need. You're going to get help a lot faster, and it's going to cover more of your items if you go through insurance instead of through the disaster assistance. Well, living here in Harrison County, and specifically in Biloxi, is a great blessing. But we need to make sure that we're prepared for those occasional storms that do roll through. And so we're asking all of our community residents and our visitors to make sure that we're prepared for this hurricane season. And you can do that with all the steps that we've talked through so far. For more information, please contact Harrison County Emergency Management at 865-4002. Thank you.
I'm Kate Gutierrez, Elite Coastal Realty.
And I'm Clay Gutierrez, Concrete Building Concepts.
And together we've teamed up under one roof, and we provide you with excellent customer service.
And strong hurricane-resistant houses.
I can help you find the lot.
And I can build your house.
When you're talking about hurricane preparedness, they're talking about when the hurricane's in the Gulf. They want you to be ready for it. We're saying be ready now. Make sure that you're selecting your home, your lot, all in with a hurricane in mind.
Yeah, so like Kate said, it's not really if a hurricane's going to hit, it's when a hurricane's going to hit. As longtime coastal residents, I'm very familiar with the storms that come in frequently, and that's the main reason we're in the business that we're in. I build concrete houses. They're designed to withstand Category 5 storms, and that is, any precaution you could take is a good precaution, but with your biggest investment, if you have the opportunity to build the structure stronger, whether you build with me out of a concrete house or you fortify a wood frame house, you do need to realize that you are in a hurricane impacted area, and you are going to more than likely see a storm roll in through the life of your home. So it makes sense to try to build the structure to withstand a storm. Kate can tell you there's a lot of different properties available on the coast. They're in all different types of zones, flood zones, and things like that.
And all the municipalities require different requirements for you to build in those zones.
Yeah, and you know, we do a lot of waterfront, a lot of high impact area homes because our method of construction is far superior to traditional construction. And one thing I always tell my customers, you know, you're at the right place, you're making the right decision, because probably 95% of the homes I build are being built on lots that had a wood frame home on them before the storm. And, you know, it doesn't make sense. History repeats itself. So, you know, let's try to keep the house there after the hurricane blows through.
It was a lot easier to clean up the mess when you still had a house than it was to replace the entire house.
Yeah.
So build concrete, build strong. Call me at Elite Coastal Realty.
Yeah, and there's some other things we could do too. You know, a lot of the homes we build nowadays, they've got backup generators in them. We've got residential elevators and stuff, but there's always, you know, we're building in things. Now we're building smarter. You know, it adds a little cost on the front end, but the convenience of having these things after a storm far outweighs the upfront cost. So, you know, when you start talking about preparing for a hurricane, just like Kate and I are saying, you need to really be thinking far ahead. You know, don't wait till that storm gets in the Gulf just to realize it's coming, because one thing we can tell you from living here on the coast is it is coming. It'll be here one day, and the more prepared you can be for it, the smarter you're doing.
Hi, I'm Jane Shambra, the manager and librarian for the local history and genealogy department, which is located in the Biloxi Library on Howard Avenue. In our special collection, you can learn a lot about not only your genealogy, but also about the amazing history of the Biloxi area, and a lot about hurricanes which have been visited through the history of Biloxi. Hurricanes are nothing new to Biloxi. In the early 1700s, when Monsieur d'Iberville and his crew settled on our shores, they were probably unprepared for the onslaught of all these unexpected monsters. No forewarning in those days. In the library's local history department, we have an early drawing of settlers and Native Americans working hard to establish a settlement, including simple buildings in what was known then as New Biloxi. They did not have early warning systems like we have today. In d'Iberville's diary, he writes about terrible storms that clobbered this area. There was a plan in place for Biloxi to be the capital of Louisiana, but unfortunately many things, including hurricanes, changed their mind of the European rulers. Other factors such as bugs, poor sandy farm soil, and many deaths due to illnesses, probably a flu or so, at the time added to the shift. Hence, the seat of government moved to New Orleans, away from the roaring waves of the Gulf of Mexico. The local history and genealogy department has an amazing collection of things that gives people an idea of what happened in Biloxi's past. Books and newspapers about past hurricanes are some of these. We even have pictures of damage of past hurricanes and what they have done. Years ago, they would name storms after the year that they happened, like the Great Hurricane of 1947. Later on, they decided to name hurricanes in alphabetical order using women's names. We have heard a lot about the devastation of Hurricane Betsy in 1965 and the Hurricane Camille in 1969 from our grand and great-grandparents. During those years, communication and photography had become well advanced, allowing for more documentation as to what really happened. Our library has many booklets and pictures about famous hurricanes. Even though these don't remind us of the good times, they teach us about how forceful and how serious hurricanes can become. Take a look at a few pictures that we have in our library from Hurricane Camille in 1969. Before and after pictures of the famous Barisev's restaurant. Here's a boat that landed in someone's front yard. Here you can see devastation at the site of the Church the Redeemer at the western corner of Highway 90 and Melman Streets. Only the old church and the bell tower remained on site after that storm. Sadly, Hurricane Katrina destroyed both. This is the very famous Baldwin Wood lighthouse that once sat at the east corner of Highway 90 and Bellman Streets. The wooden lighthouse was devastated in that storm. Here you can see the devastation that the seafood industry endured. And after Hurricane Camille, free phone service was offered on West Howard Avenue to the public to communicate after the storm was over. You have heard a lot about Hurricane Katrina and the damage that it caused in 2005. Can you believe it's been almost 16 years since that all happened and we are still recovering from it? Take a look at these pictures. Here is our library, which once sat on Lemieux Street, right across from City Hall. It got clobbered both inside and out from Hurricane Katrina. And it took years to recover from Katrina's fury. We are still recovering from Katrina, our city, our citizens, and our economy. My most favorite pictures to share with the public about Hurricane Katrina is those of the massive casino barges that became unmoored from their docks and traveled at least 1/4 of a mile northwest, finally landing on the land north of Highway 90. Can you imagine that? You would think this could only happen in monster movies, but Katrina was truly a monster for sure. So what can we learn from pictures and books at our library? We can learn to be prepared. And now is the time. When you think about evacuating, think about your family history too. Think about what you'll bring along with you just in case you need to evacuate. And here are a few suggestions. You may want to make and take a digital copy of your family pictures and special mementos like love letters. And don't forget a paper address book to record important phone numbers, addresses, and emails just in case our cell phones fail us. So now's a good time to start scanning and taking pictures of our important family documents and irreplaceable things like baby pictures. Bring along thumb drives, which are portable, and send digital copies to yourself in emails. And always remember to check on Grandma. Make a plan now. Be prepared for later, just in case.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this program. Please make sure you are prepared, monitor various weather broadcasts and media outlets, and don't forget to sign up for timely text alerts from the City of Biloxi through its B-Alert system. Just text BILOXI to 99411. Again, thank you, and please make sure you are prepared.